Hello, dear friends. We're continuing with our show, Secrets of the Eternal Book, and today we're going to talk about the mysteries of the Pentateuch. Bereshit, show number 5. So, we're revealing these secrets. We're engaged in analyzing this fascinating topic with the scientist, Kabbalist, Dr. Michael Leitman. Hello. Hello. We're leaving the Garden of Eden. Adam and Eve were exiled from the Garden of Eden. So, if you could explain, what's this feeling of the Garden of Eden in a person inside of me? Of course, it all happens inside a person. It didn't happen to some people that suddenly fell from the sky and didn't shatter into pieces. Well, actually, it's not even in a person. It's in the fetus, because Adam, Eve, all of these characters that we were told about in the Eternal Book, this all tells us about what exists inside of us, about our qualities, that these qualities came into our current state from their absolute higher spiritual qualities, where they all worked in bestowal, in love, outside of themselves, and this state was called paradise. Paradise meaning what? Paradise is the state of bestowal, of love, a state of complete independence of your own ego, where a person feels that he's free. He's free of his ego. We can't even imagine what that is. It's like a child who was born in prison. He can't imagine that there's anything else. We're living in a prison? Obviously. In our own ego. This is our prison cell, and we bow to it without understanding that we have no free choice. And this is our current life in jail, right? So we're told that we actually we were made out of completely different qualities. We came from a completely different world, from that part in creation that's completely hidden from us, and we fell into this part of creation. And it's not a physical part, but a qualitative one. We fell in our qualities. Our qualities were completely inverted. And we today come from this state. And that's why this state is called a descent, or the exile from the Garden of Eden. Where to? To this vicious land. Land, Eretz in Hebrew, comes from the word ratzon, desire, these egoistic desires. Therefore, our contemporary existence is felt by us as our existence in these egoistic desires that are constantly developing and that have to eventually lead us to a point where we will understand that we can no longer exist in them. We want to get rid of them. How can we refuse what's best and receive what's worse? No, we're talking about qualities here. Man doesn't exist here. There's no body. There isn't even a state that we can call our world and the way that we imagine it, but the desire that was created by the Creator, when it feels itself in the quality of bestowal, it feels itself and the Creator, meaning itself and the fulfillment of the upper light, the way it's fulfilled by the upper light. And when it suddenly changes its quality into its opposite, instead of bestowal and love, to egoistically using everything, sucking everything into myself, then it starts feeling, it's like they're black holes, black stars, that can't even emit anything, that everything's sucked inwards, all the energy. So this is what our ego is similar to. And once this great big desire that was created turned from bestowing, giving to the Creator, to receiving, to sucking everything inwards, immediately it started feeling itself in a state called our world or hell. What a comparison. And immediately, the entire exalted picture of creation, I with the Creator, with the infinite light, it all inverted into this closed micro picture of our universe. And our world, and you and I, and all of us on this small planet, and this is how it's all depicted to us in this corrupted egoistic desire. And if this desire will invert once again into love and bestowal, then the way we sense our existence in our body, on this planet, in this universe, it will all disappear, and once again we will discover ourselves existing in the light of the Creator. Did we already start our way back? Of course. Practically, from our birth here, from the point where our desire changed, and we start sensing ourselves as existing here, from that state and on, we're advancing all the time. So we're returning to the better state. We're not yet returning to it, but we're heading toward feeling our current state as the most corrupted one. And from that will come our reluctant decision to get out of it in every possible way, and we will get out of it. Meaning, we'll change what we feel to the quality of bestowal. And obviously, our sensations will change. Instead of sensing hell from sucking everything inwards to feeling paradise from bestowal. And this is how the entire picture of the universe changes, meaning all those presumptions made by Einstein and Hugh Everett and all those that say that everything depends on the observer, that there's no time, space, motion, that it's all relative to the viewer, the entire picture. It's truly so, and we will see a completely different picture. Instead of our world, the world of endlessness. So let's start reading and explaining this eternal book. And Almighty God banished him from the Garden of Eden to cultivate the ground from which he was taken, and exiled man, and placed to the east of the Garden of Eden angels and a flaming sword rotating to secure the path to the tree of life. It says exile, to cultivate the ground from which he was taken. Yes, to change our desire. Land, Eretz in Hebrew, comes from the word ratzon, desire, meaning for him by himself to come to such a state where he will have to invert his desire to bestow, meaning he's banished in order to begin his correction, yes, in order to attain his true state and desire that state in which he was next to the Creator in order to appreciate it, want it, use it correctly, fully. For this, he has to appreciate it from its opposite, to understand that this is the worst possible state, yes, our current one. My question is, why is there at the gate to the Garden of Eden an angel with a flaming sword to protect the tree of life? Because a person wishes to receive all the pleasures of the Garden of Eden and hell, meaning to suck them inwards. And for that not to happen, there's this special quality standing there, this special obstacle on the way, that only one who can truly invert himself, change himself, chop this ego off himself, this intention for himself, he goes through this angel, through this force, through this condition where you're obligated, meaning it's a necessary and sufficient condition. There is no other condition, but you have to cut off from yourself the intention to receive for yourself, and with the same desire, only without the intention, you enter the new state of the Garden of Eden of bestowal, and you start receiving an intention over your previous desire, but it's the intention to bestow. And this way you start feeling everything in the returning, reflected light of bestowal, and then you feel everything not inside your small, limited self, but outside of yourself, a state that is completely open and endless. You start feeling a new dimension. What is an angel? A force. It's a force that helps a person to cut off his egoistic intentions. In this case, there are different angels, and to acquire altruistic intentions. Does this force exist inside of me? No, it's an external force. A person has to get closer to it, to wish for it to start working on him. So it's good for a person that there is such a guard. Of course it is, and it's not good or bad. But when a person comes closer to that, he wants for that force to perform this correction on him. And the man got to know Eve, his wife, and she conceived and gave birth to Cain. And she said, I have acquired a man with God, and moreover gave birth to his brother Abel. And Abel was a shepherd of sheep, but Cain was a tiller of the soil. What does it mean to acquire a man with God? It means that it is impossible to give birth to anything in a sheer egoistic desire because it sucks everything in and doesn't emit anything. Giving birth to something new is based on two desires, the desire to absorb and the desire to give. It's like a state of plus and minus, pressure and vacuum, heat and cold. Different combinations, connections between two opposites give birth to the next state, degree. Therefore, if it's just dead land, like ash, for example, then she couldn't have given birth to anything. It's necessary to add to that state, to the intention only for yourself, also the intention for the sake of someone, something. I have to give birth to someone. I have to care for someone, think about someone. And also in our world, we see it in a mother's attitude toward her child as a state of love and bestowal. This quality is embedded in us by the Creator. It's the quality of bestowal that's embedded in a person to begin with, and he starts gradually developing. So, the entire development of mankind is the gradual development toward the quality of bestowal, where a person starts understanding that it's actually better than his initial egoistic quality. So, women have a greater quality of bestowal because they can give birth. A woman can give birth, but only if she's conceived by a man. True, but in her, there is the quality of reception. That thanks to the quality that the male part, and I'm not talking about men and women here, I'm talking about two qualities. The woman is the quality of reception, the man is the quality of bestowal. And if they can connect together, then only in that case can they generate the next degree. Meaning the quality of bestowal with the quality of reception, working together in symbiosis and connection, which gives further development toward greater attainment, understanding, development, and so on. What does it mean that these two qualities appear in me? Cain and Abel. One's a shepherd, the other one's a farmer. Opposite properties. But why is one a shepherd and the other a land tiller? These are different qualities that talk about different degrees. A land tiller is still on the vegetative level, and a shepherd's already on the animate level. And gradually, between the vegetative and animate or animal states, they start working in these desires. The vegetative and then the animate desire, giving birth to new desires, and develop that way. But actually, from the vegetative to the animate and then to the human level. And this is the path of development that each of us has to go through. And it was after some time, Cain brought of the fruit of the ground an offering to God, and Abel also brought of the firstlings of the flock and of their fat, and bowed God to Abel and his offering. But to Cain and his offering didn't bow, and Cain was very frustrated, and his face wilted. Why the inception of this hatred? It shows that the quality of bestowal is closer to being used on the animate level than on the vegetative. It's inside of us, meaning inside of us there are the qualities of the still, vegetative, and the animate, meaning the egoistic qualities are developing more and more all the time. And closer to the Creator, more beneficial, more necessary, are the more advanced qualities on the animate level, and therefore it says what it says. How can we imagine what are these animate desires inside of us? The best way to think about it is that all of our desires are divided into the still, vegetative, and the animate or animal desires are the most developed desires egoistically on our earthly degree. And when a person uses even his animal egoism to bestow, which is called to bring the Creator an offering, meaning I sacrifice my highest desires in order to become like the Creator, because sacrifice means for me to come closer to the Creator. In Hebrew, offering is called korban, from the word karov, close, to come closer to. And therefore, obviously, if I can come closer to the Creator in my most egoistic qualities by correcting them, then it is a higher state than using the desires on the vegetative level. And so, naturally, it is metaphorically said that the Creator favored Abel and not Cain. And that's why they brought these animal offerings. It's the desire to come closer. Yeah, exactly. All these conventions, which are written in the Bible regarding sacrificing all sorts of offerings, the fruits of the earth, animals, etc., these are degrees of adhesion with the Creator. And God said to Cain, "From what sad are you, and from what thy face wilted? After all, if you yearn for good, then you will be forgiven. If you do not yearn for the good, then the sin is at the door and it will follow you. You're supposed to rule over it." Meaning you're on the middle step between the still and animate desires, on the vegetative level, which is in the middle. So, if you aspire to advance, then your desire will also come up to the animate level, and you will also be able to bring fruits on such a high level like Abel. And if you can't, then you can still turn back, meaning you're still in a state where you can't be sure that you're on the right path. You're only as if starting. You're in this intermediate state, and so it can go either way. So beware of sins, meaning you can suddenly fall out of the right direction and go back, and this is how it really is. Can Cain dominate this sin? Yes and no. I don't want to confuse our listeners here, because we're actually trying to explain it all on the correct but most minimum level. It's like giving something to a child, spoon by spoon. Exactly. Unfortunately, in order to advance, a person has to err all the time, and every time stumble upon something, sin, and only after he sees what was done, he can correct it and stumble again and plunge into sin and correct it again, and so on and so forth. As it says, anyone who's righteous was first a sinner and then corrected himself. So a real sinner is he who doesn't feel that he's a sinner, right? His path is closed. So he's so-called righteous, but actually, right, here we're talking about two qualities in which we develop. The one is the quality of Abel, which is the quality of bestowal, and the other quality of Cain, which is the quality of reception. Meaning this one desire that came from Adam and Eve is split into two, and they have to exist in parallel and develop. That of Cain and of Abel. And plotted Cain against Abel, his brother, and when they were in the field, plotted, meaning that he wanted to receive the light that Abel got from correcting those states in which he was closer to the Creator, then the lower desire in a person wishes to use it to its own benefit. Meaning, through studying, through developing, I've attained some new interesting laws, and then I get this desire of how can I use it to my own benefit, even if it's to the detriment of others. And there it is. This development is called Abel, and then using it to your own benefit, like nuclear energy or something. I want to use it to my own benefit and to the detriment of others. That's the quality of Cain. Meaning I develop chemicals in order to make medicine, and suddenly I start using it in order to create weapons or something. Right. Meaning when there's achievement, it goes through expansion due to the property of bestowal, which is in us from the Creator. Because inanimate nature can't produce anything if it does not contain the sparks of the light of the Creator, meaning the quality of bestowal, expansion. And by using this as if God-given gift to our own benefit, we become Cain. Beautiful. So again, and plotted Cain against Abel, his brother, and when they were in the field, rose up Cain against Abel, his brother, and murdered him. The first case of murder. All true. What does it mean that he killed his brother? Killed his brother means that this property that was all about bestowal, it was now used by him to his own benefit, for his own sake. By Cain, yes. To kill Abel means to use bestowal, love, etc. to your own benefit. So the quality of bestowal is gone, and the only quality left is to receive for yourself. That's called to bestow in order to receive, meaning to as if use the good spiritual quality of light, but for your own ego, in order to rule over others. And further, there's the first investigation. And said God to Cain, "Where is Abel, your brother?" And he answered, "I do not know. Am I a guard to my brother?" And he said, "What have you done? Your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground." Meaning that because this egoistic quality called Cain started using the quality of bestowal for its own sake, it relegated it to the degree of blood, dam in Hebrew, from the word domem, still. And so it drinks from the ground, meaning that the quality of bestowal is now subordinated to the egoistic desire. And that's why it's called that it drinks from there. And it's necessary for development. And of course, we can't scrutinize this like children. What, didn't the Creator know that they'll kill each other, this, that? Naturally. So these aren't stories, these aren't fairy tales on a childish level. But we have to understand the quality of creation that exists in us. And this is the only thing that it talks about man's nature and what is he supposed to do with it. There are different phrases here like, am I guard to my brother? They're very widespread around the world, and everyone says, your brother's blood cries out, etc. Preaching, people use it in whatever way is convenient for them. It's not just so that Cain says that. So you constantly mention the way a certain word is pronounced in Hebrew, and immediately after that you give the correct explanation about what it is. So how can a person who, for example, speaks only Russian or English, he can't. He necessarily has to understand this. And furthermore, basically all scientists, theologians, philosophers until the end of the Middle Ages all knew Hebrew. Newton studied Hebrew. He knew very good Hebrew. Even some of his articles were written in Hebrew. Also Leibniz and others. Look, it's impossible to study the Bible, especially to understand what it talks about. And I'm not even talking about the Kabbalistic level, but on its, true simple level, as it's written, without knowing this language, without reading the ancient commentaries to it, which were written practically as soon as Moses was done writing it. Immediately after that, they started writing commentaries. And on the level of prophets, which were also great Kabbalists, who simply clarified to us what he wanted to say. But there were no religions yet. It's beyond religions. Of course. And this book is also beyond religions. True. And afterwards came different commentaries to this book. Yeah, afterwards, people according to their level of attainment, each according to what's convenient to them, started writing something, doing something, like in our world. If I'm not finding any new discoveries, and I can't talk about my higher knowledge, then at least I'll criticize others. It's a very natural occupation for man. At least if I'm not doing anything, then I criticize others. The material is already ready, prepared. I see that they're doing something, and with their help, the more I criticize others, the greater I have become. I see it very often when people describe our work. So it's like what we said about that a person doesn't feel his own evil. He can't. A person somehow has to assert himself, uplift himself at the expense of others. How else? Here's an example. Here is the originated first-hand example. Tell me, what's wrong with Cain? Only the fact that Abel has achieved something, he has something of his own, he has some sort of connection with the Creator. Cain wants a greater connection with the Creator than Abel. Yes, but at the expense of another. We have to understand that this is a natural way of development, and all those Cains that are inside us, outside of us, they won't disappear until we will reveal the whole nature of man and want to rise above it, and we have to reveal that. So, we'll continue this chapter on our next show, and I have to say that it is a very non-simple chapter. Of course, you have to bring everything down to man's initial qualities. Only then will we understand what the Bible speaks about. It relates only to that which is inside a person, to what you have to do in order to make a man out of yourself. Adam in Hebrew also meaning to be similar to the Creator. So, dear friends, let's start being similar to the Creator, or at least let's try. So stay with us. We're going to have another show dedicated to this chapter. Till next time, all the best.